Good evening, Shortcuts. Stephen here. This is the first video for Wednesday, 8th of November at 9 p.m. As always, this is your preview, and the pricing list will come out at 9 p.m. sharp. Now, for the first time in quite a few months, this is a jazz only list. I've been saving some records up, and yeah, there's 9, I think. Let's get into it. All right. Now, the question of what to start off with. I debated it for quite a long time, and I settled on this record. Mostly because I do love the original Verve Black Label, and this is the record. This was recorded in, I think, 1955 and released in 1956. This is Diz and Gets. This is the hard cardboard Japanese press. I love that image. Look at that. Dizzy and Stan, East Coast and West Coast jazz coming together. And it's a mono pressing as well. Now, I listened to this earlier today, and I think the standout track is the opening track. It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. What did I think about it? I thought that Dizzy Gillespie was surprisingly restrained. The other Dizzy Gillespie records I have, he is blowing 100, as they say. This is pure hard bop. This is before Dizzy went kind of full Afro-Cuban. The mellow East Coast versus West Coast vibe just really works. And it was actually only a couple of years before this record, Dizzy, I think he was holding a birthday party for his wife. And the tube, the end tube on his trumpet got bent at the party, so it kind of curved up a little bit. And he really liked it. He kept it that way, and it became kind of his signature. This is the first time, I think, in the history of Shortcuts that I've had a Dizzy Gillespie record. I've had some Stan Getz, and Getz Gilberto and things like that, but I think that is pretty cool. There's some competition, though. The second record in tonight's list is a rare and I think underappreciated Thelonious Monk record. This is Monk's Blues by Thelonious Sphere Monk, and that sleeve is incredible. And there's the back with Thelonious and Oliver Nelson and some of the others. This was produced by Ted Mastrow, but I believe it was recorded at the Rudy Van Gelder studios. Again, this is unusual because it is a red label promo. And if you look there, it says not for sale. Now, having looked into these types of promo discs, I've seen some blue and I've obviously seen lots of white. There's some white promos to come. These orange/red label promos are really quite unusual. And having played this record earlier, if it's been played more than a few times in its life, it's hiding it well. So what do I enjoy about this? Well, I think that Brilliant Corners, which is the 5th track on side 1, was the highlight. I loved the galloping nature of the tempo. It became, and Thelonious Monk's solo was mind-bogglingly good. And then on side 2, there are some kind of Thelonious Monk standards. Monk's Point, Tinkle, Trinkle Tinkle. Yeah, it's underappreciated. I've seen some reviews, people are quite sniffy about this, and then I've seen others where people are like, "Well, you know what, it's rather cool," and I'm siding with them. And I think that cover art is incredible. And just there, you can see the artist is Paul Davis. I think that cover art is some of the most beautiful jazz cover art I've ever seen. And so there you have it. An orange label, not for sale promo of Monk's Blues by Thelonious Monk. Now, I did promise some white label promos, and here's the first in tonight's list. This is the white label promo of the BLP Blue Note release of Miles Davis Volume 2. Now, what's the story here? This is somewhat convoluted. This is Miles Davis's second recording session, actually a few recording sessions that he did in his early years with Blue Note. Recorded in 54, 55, and I think my research confirms 52, 53, and 54. And I think that part of what's pretty extraordinary about this particular record is the band. And to be accurate, the bands. So the first recording session features Miles Davis on trumpet, Art Blakey on drums, Percy Heath on bass. I'm just going to make this work. Jimmy Heath on tenor sax. Pretty extraordinary. The second session features J.J. Johnson on trombone, Jackie McLean on alto sax, Oscar Pettiford on bass, Kenny Clark on drums, and then the third session features Art Blakey on drums and Horace Silver on piano. And so this was released in 1955. And what was notable about 1955 was that this was the time when Miles Davis was starting to become a thing. Downbeat magazine, which was one of the premier jazz magazines in the US, had voted Miles Davis its Trumpeter of the Year. And so this was kind of him rubber stamping and plotting the way to his greatness. It's pure hard bop. It's really well recorded. It's very fun. It's a very fine thing. And I don't come across many Blue Note white labels, to be honest. They're normally held pretty tight. There's a few marks and stuff you can see on the sleeve. So the sleeve I'm going to mark is VG. There's no splits or anything of that nature, but the vinyl's great. The sleeve's okay. The sleeve could be better. But yeah, it's a very, very interesting thing. So Volume 1 and Volume 2 were released pretty soon after one another. And having listened to both, I think that Volume 1 maybe kind of slightly hold the edge. But Volume 2 is very, very fine. And unusual to find, as I said, Blue Note white label with OB. Yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. All right. These next, I'm quite excited about these next few. Again, never had this on the list before. And I've only really started exploring this guy because of the only record that John Coltrane recorded with a vocalist, which was John Coltrane and Johnny Hartman on the Impulse label. Now, this is wonderful. A few months after that record, Johnny Hartman dropped this, which was his second Impulse record and his first I guess you'd call it solo record. John Coltrane doesn't appear on this record, but I will tell you who does in a second. And it's called I Just Dropped By to Say Hello. So the band, Hank Jones on piano, Illinois Jacquet on tenor sax. He is amazing. I love that breathy tone. Really reminded me of Ike Quebec. Both Kenny Burrell and Jim Hall are on guitar on this record. Milt Hinton on bass and Elvin Jones on drum. He's an all-star band. It says on the back, listen to Johnny Hartman's dark satin lyricism, a voice that is a perfectly tuned instrument, unobtrusive, relaxing, yet heavy in quality. He caresses each word with tenderness. His enunciation is impeccable. He respects the word. His meaningful embellishments are a joy. I agree. And I love the inside of this too. There's the listening notes and some of the players. Yeah, this one surprised me. This one didn't. I know how good this record is. This is still in the shrink wrap. Now, I said that the previous band that supported Johnny Hartman was an all-star band. Nothing on this band. This is the Blue Note 4000 series release, still in the shrink wrap, of The Sermon by Jimmy Smith. Jimmy Smith absolutely catapulted himself onto the jazz scene and recorded, this is extraordinary but true, he recorded 15 albums in a 3-year span, of which I think this might be the 15th, you know. I think it might be. Listen to the band. Are you ready? Jimmy Smith on organ, obviously. Lee Morgan on trumpet. Lou Donaldson on sax. Tina Brooks on tenor sax. Kenny Burrell, Eddie McFadden on guitars. And Art Blakey on drums. I mean, it's pretty incredible. So how did he release so many records in such a short period of time? It is because of his style of recording. Basically, were jam sessions, and the musicians would come in and jam with him, and Rudy Van Gelder would record it, and they would usually release the records pretty much as they were recorded, because they were marvelous. And unlike some other Jimmy Smith records that I've listened to where the organ really is front and center, this one is far more collegiate. Because of the supporting cast, you get to hear Lee Morgan, Lou Donaldson, and I think the star of the show, Tina Brooks, so underrated as a saxophonist. And you know, I love Kenny Burrell. I just love him. He's just amazing. And so the songs that he's on are great. This is the original Obi, which kind of like a hype sticker Obi. But it talks about how they really respected the original content. They really replicated everything that they could to generate the experience of this record from the 50s. And there's the sheet. The sermon being the entire opening side, and in the notes it is dedicated to Horace Silver, who was his hero effectively. And so there you go, The Sermon, Jimmy Smith. Pretty cool record. Well worth exploring if you don't know it. Alrighty, now we've got my favorite things, John Coltrane. I think this must be amongst some of his most accessible music, which for me means some of his best. I am well aware that Love Supreme and others are these puzzles to be worked on and figured out over the decades. But for pure, unadulterated, absolute pleasure, the opening track and title track of this record, My Favorite Things, which you will know from The Sound of Music, is outrageously beautiful. My Favorite Things by Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein. And then the opening track on side 2, Summertime. Again, almost kind of definitive arrangements. And the band, again, are really beautiful. John Coltrane, McCoy Tyner, Steve Davis on bass, and the ubiquitous Elvin Jones on drum. And Elvin Jones is an interesting cat. He's so respectful of the music. Well, I think that's why there are so many sessions where the musicians requested Elvin Jones, and of course Rudy Van Gelder loved him. He just held the beat, metronomic, allowed everyone around him to shine. It's on the green and blue original Atlantic label. All right. Now this one's an unusual one. Again, a white label promo. Never been on the list before. This is Barbara Thompson's Juby Abba. And look at that sleeve. Now Barbara Thompson was a British saxophonist and jazz player. She was married to, I think it's Tom Wiseman, who was the drummer of the prog rock band Colosseum. And she remained live, well, I don't know whether you would say star, but certainly she had a very vibrant live support presence in the UK right up to her death. And she was awarded an MBE, but this record was a 9-piece band that she formed to kind of explore jazz fusion and world music, which makes it sound really worthy. And it really isn't. It's fun. Here's a picture of the band. She had such an interesting life. She played flute on Jeff Wayne's recording of War of the Worlds. So on this record, Barbara Thompson plays flute, tenor sax, soprano sax, alto sax. How cool is that? Barbara Thompson's Juby Abba, which when translated from Portuguese means an old voodoo priest. There's an interesting thing for you. Really fun and interesting and different record. 3 to go. 2 of which are classics, and I'm just going to touch on them very quickly because they're really shortcuts royalty. But this, I guess, is getting up there. This is Herbie Hancock's Man-Child. I don't get this very often. I really like the Japanese pressing on this again. I think it's a beautiful sleeve. But this is getting into the period of Herbie Hancock that I like best. This is, I think, by far his funkiest record. And part of the reason is because there are not 1, not 2, but 3 guitarists on this record. And all of them at various points plug in their wah-wah pedal. And so you get the downbeat wah-wah and you get those kind of really funky beats and horns, as well, of course, the keyboards. This is on the original, I think this is the first press. But Herbie Hancock's Man-Child is it's upper echelon, Herbie, for me. Yeah, I really, really like it. And by far his funkiest record. And to be honest, I'm going to finish off with a couple of classics. I'll start here. We talked about the Blue Note 400 series of Jimmy Smith's The Sermon. I also have, still in the shrink wrap, the Blue Note 400 series of Herbie Hancock's Maiden Voyage, which is about as far away from man-child as you can get. This is pure hard bop, beautiful, beautiful jazz record on the original Blue Note label. Sounds amazing. And you know what? I'm going to return to an old friend just because everywhere I can, every time I can, I put this record up. Art Blakey's truly phenomenal Moanin'. I love this record. Every single song. And over the years, though, obviously the title track is incredible. I do love Along Came Betty. But I get an immense amount of pleasure from the Drum Thunder suite that opens side 2. It is a drumming tour de force. It really is. And it's another one of those songs that you can play someone who says, you know what, I'm not into jazz. And then you play them some Mike Quebec or maybe some Jimmy Smith or maybe some Duke Pearson, maybe some Art Blakey. And they go, oh, yeah. It's funny how it works. And you know what? It's how exactly it was with me. I was not into this stuff, and now I absolutely bloody love it. And one of the great pleasures of Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, Moanin', is that the listening notes are by the legendary Leonard Feather. And they're great. They're great. Anyway, you know how much I love this record. I should have had my Art Blakey t-shirt on. So there you have it. The jazz list for November 8th. If you would like to receive the price list, make sure you're on the mailing list. If you're not, just hit me up, send me a message on YouTube or subscribe, drop me a comment, we'll figure it out. If you like what you heard, if you find this interesting, please leave me a comment below. It's really the only thing that YouTube cares about, and I'm trying to make sure these videos reach as many people as possible. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Hope you find it interesting. And here's to the next one. Thanks, everyone. Bye.